the channel? Brian Jennings, the critical sorcerer. This channel exists for me to discuss my relationship with Quentin Tarantino. It is obvious now to me that he will tell everyone that I reach out to, and I'm going to reach out to everyone who publicly pats him on the back and eats his ass, right, that he'll deny our relationship. And so as a refresher for the channel, pardon me, right, I'm going to run through it all again. Right, the real reason why he canceled the film 1 and 2, right, those are the videos. Right? I wrote Quentin's movie theater that he owns. Right? 4 letters in 2023 about playing the lead. Didn't send him another one. 6 months later, the trades published that he halted production of the movie Critic. All the letters came flooding back to me. So, right, I started writing him again and wrote him 6 more letters over like a 5-week period. It was perhaps 12 pages to 15 pages. And then it was like 40 pages or 50 pages if you include the 2 that were refused at the door. Right? And so I wrote him, right, during this time that he had halted production of his film, right, until the trades published at the end of January that Brad Pitt was reuniting with Quentin for the movie Critic, and he stopped accepting my mail. Right? And so that made me very depressed. Very depressed. I thought that was ridiculous. Ridiculous that he takes 60 pages of my writing, right? Not 1 page. Right? I made it clear, this is why, this is why, this is why, this is why. Right? And so, right, after I processed it for about 10 days, I realized, okay, this guy doesn't respect me. Right? This guy's a fucking asshole. And so I started writing about it. Right? And as I was writing, I began to see him in a different light. Right? And so I realized, right, and put it in my essay, right, that Brad Pitt and Cliff Booth are the same person. Right? That the reason Brad Pitt played the role of Cliff Booth is because it's the same story. Right? Writers write what they know, always and forever. Quentin knows show business. This is what he knows. He knows actors, he knows movies, right? And so, his buddy, who was in Inglourious Bastards, right, became a notorious fucking wife beater in 2016 after the FBI met him and his wife on the tarmac of Los Angeles in a private plane they were flying from France, and no charges were filed. Right? So, Quentin pulled that story out of the air, put it in the water, and turned it into murder. Right? So, actor becomes stuntman. Right? Actor and stuntman, like a stuntman is an actor. Right? Right? Air becomes boat. Right? A boat is a water plane. Right? Assault, he smacked his wife around and screamed right in her face, screamed in their kids' faces. This is all in Rolling Stone's report. It's not me, right? I'm not making these things up. Right? Becomes murder. He murders her with a spear gun. Right? And so I put that in my essay. Right? And then, after I published it, I reviewed 3 films in protest. The first one was An American in Paris. The second one was Mr. Skeffington. The third was Gone with the Wind. I posted that third review, Gone with the Wind, Twitter handle, which I've since taken down. Boycott the Critic. Right? Directly to his Twitter. Right? That Q Tarantino tweet. So there it is. Feel free to read the other 2 as you enjoy your final film. I'm mentioning both of them. And he canceled the film the following day. Right? Everyone's talking about this Church of Tarantino podcast. Right? He said, gosh, I didn't want to do the same thing again. Like, that's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. That he liked me, right? And so this brings me into the heart of the matter, right? This brings me into what we're actually talking about here, why the vision board is behind me, right? That Quentin is a powerful psychic clairvoyant, right? And he jumped into my mind in December of 2023 and ran amok in it, like he does with any actor, right? Because he debases everyone that's in his films, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, right? And so when he stopped accepting my mail, right, and jumped out of my head and didn't say anything to me, right, that's when I realized about Cliff Booth, because he opened up that aperture and it made me see all of his movies in like a different light, right? And if I wanted to, right, I could go all the way back, I'm sure. It's just like South Park, right? That Trey parodies the things that are occurring in his life in South Park a lot of the time, right? And so Quentin, right, did that to Brad, right? When Brad's doing the press junkets for the film and he talks about how the second time he saw the script it was all dog-eared, that was for every other role. There was never anyone else that was playing the role of Cliff Booth, right? Which he won an Oscar for, just so that, like, now we're all, right? Sony campaigned for Brad Pitt to win an Oscar, right, for playing himself, who is a wife beater who beat up his wife on an airplane and didn't get charged with it, just like Cliff Booth killed his wife and didn't get charged with it. Right? Are these like leaps in logic? You know? That this is like, that's the spell, right? Right? And so we come back to Quentin, right? When he canceled the film, right? He jumped into my mind again for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And I bought his book, Cinema Speculation. And he spoke at De Niro Con at a screening of Jackie Brown. Right? So, everything that he said in that conversation, right, was in relation to me. Right? And so, I had a letter in here, right? So he cancels the film, I write him a letter immediately, refused at the door. Right? A week before Tribeca, I write him another letter, refused at the door. Right? So, right? There's a letter, right there, Quentin. There's the autograph, right? He said, where should I sign? I said, wherever you want. Pushed this letter all the way up to his face, right? And so that was my magic, right? He wanted to turn it into a magic game. He could have just emailed me, right? He could have said something to me practically. And then I would have known definitively, right? But he wanted to turn it into this esoteric, occult, mentalism, sort of mind game, right? And so he stuck his nose up in my letter and turned his back on my letter. And so I did the same thing, right? And that's my right, right? And so now, since then, right, he's entered into a campaign, him and the people around him, which he can always deny, right? Because this ain't, right? This is a very subtle thing that we're talking about here, right? To compel me to madness and suicide, right? And so that's where the novel comes from. It's a novelization of my experiences, right? So, if you recall, right, he reveals his tactics in his novel, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the novelization, right? That Brad Pitt is Cliff Booth, right? Charles Manson is Quentin Tarantino, right? That Quentin directs with his mind. That's what he does, right? And so, right, for the maybe like 8 months after Tribeca, he was directing me into, right, the loony bin and depression, right? And it's all in this novel, right? And now that I revealed myself, we're almost there in the novel, it's almost done, right? He has descended into palpable black magic evil. And so, the logical question that someone might be asking now is, if you are in such a state, right? If you are so afraid, right? What are you doing with this channel? Right? That's a fair question. Right? That's a fair question. So I revealed myself at the beginning of January of this year and turned it all on him. Right? Celestial vision board, subatomic scaffold. Right? And I showed him, oh no, like if we're like I know exactly how to play the mind game. Right? And so in due time, right now where I'm at in the novel, I'm being led to believe he has a daughter who's a skank. Right? Who likes to torture me with her mind. Right? But what I found out after however many days of me going off, me turning it all on them, right? He said, oh no, there is no daughter. Right? So who's that? His agent, Mike Simpson, Molach, Triple A. I don't think this is scholastically accurate, but it's supposed to be one of the Shinhan Farash. Other side, Olivia Wilde, noted as having met with Quentin for the role. Sam Jackson. Right? He don't do nothing like this. He don't know nothing about nothing. He's a horse's ass. Right? But after a few days of giving him a taste, he said, oh no, there is no daughter. It's all bullshit. No one loves you, ha 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 ha. And I started coming clean ever since. Then I got it. Oh, okay, I see. It's all to get me to kill myself. But there's no other way to interpret it. What do I mean when I say that? Right? I mean that if someone wants to just eat Quentin's ass and assume that I'm completely insane, then that's your right. And you can mock me online, and plenty of people do, I'm sure. More than one of my subscribers, I'm sure, says, oh, look at this crazy motherfucker, he thinks. You know? But again, can't stress this enough, right? There it is, right? There's the ticket, right? Sat in line 4 fucking hours, been in the front row, right? But if you believe me, I'd like to hope most of the people who subscribe to this channel believe me, in fact, then by default, you have to recognize that if he has no designs on our reconciliation, and he doesn't, I know, and I feel like he's fucking directing me right now. God damn it, right? But my point is that it's sick, right? It's a sick psychology in both of our minds, right? Not just in mine, right? And so he can look everybody in the eye, right? What I'm saying is that like he's filling up his swimming pool with bile. That there's life, right? That we're all allowed to live how we want to live, and I don't fault him for not wanting to talk about me. Sure. That's your right? My naivete, right? And of course I see, right? That if he has no heart, right? If he's just as ruthless as all the violent people in all of his films, and it must come from somewhere, then he doesn't have any problem paying people to watch me so that he can be out and about living his life. But that's, right? But what I'm saying is that on the most fundamental level, right, that if he's swallowed, right, if he's all the way swimming in all this bile, right, that if his foundation to everyone is a lie, right, is deception, then it's not good for him. It's not good for him for sure, 100%. And that's not to mention his daughter, right? His daughter's a little girl. And to come back to my other point that I was making. Why am I doing this if I'm so, right? Like if I live in perpetual fear. The reason is because when he first got really evil, right? And that spanned from like February through April. Right? Really, just really ugly. I can't stress that enough. My video, Plea to the Pope, right? It's the most dangerous evil that he can always deny. And of course he will, even if we reconcile. We'll never talk about it. But when he did that, I said, no, we're good. We're good. You just shove it up your ass. I don't need you, you don't need me. Got it. You got 25 minutes of my scripted material, you call that my sacrifice to the temple of Baphomet. And he told everybody, oh, he took it down. Right? And then, maybe like a week later, he said, oh, I want you to sue, right? Because I sent him a scene, right? This ain't just about a guy writing letters, right? This is about intellectual property, right? And it's on this channel. I get the feeling, even though I'm not yelling like I should, but there's a lot of echo in this room, right? He tells me, oh, I want you to sue. And I have no money, right? I quit my job for Quentin last year, right? And so, eventually, I got a job sorting trash. Ha 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 ha. Right? I'm moving on, right? I don't care. And then we wrote the check, $435 for the check to file the lawsuit. And after that didn't go as fast as he wanted, right? He thought that it was more appropriate and funnier to traumatize me and torture me while I was working my job. And so I quit. That's like, oh, I see. You just want to be evil to me anytime I have to be. Right? And so you see my point, right? Why he's going to pay people the rest of his career. Right? Because this is, right, when my mind is focused elsewhere. You understand what I'm saying? Right? When I'm sorting trash, right? When I'm doing anything, right? That where I'm like, oh, I have to focus on this. Someone has tasked me with something. And I didn't care. I'm living my life. Right? I came into Quentin's life to hold him accountable, obviously. A lesser man, number one, a lesser man would have never gotten all the way to Tribeca. They would have started bitching about it online. Right? And if they did, they would have killed themselves long ago. Because he's a wicked, evil man. Right? So, when he started torturing me again while I was sorting trash, right? Again, a plea to the Pope, right? Hypodermic needles, really ugly, really ugly high evil that he can always deny, right? Trying to poison my magnetic body. I quit my job and said, no, we're going to talk about it every day because it's obvious now, right? That he's just going to be evil forever. That he's going to be evil or not evil whenever he wants. And so this is why I started writing Westboro Baptist. Right? And this is why I wrote the Burbank International Film Festival. I'm writing everyone that's around this motherfucker, right? To let them know that this is what's actually occurring, right? And if he tells you anything different, he doesn't respect you at all, right? And so it's obviously some sort of game that he plays, right? That he's interested in mystery, he's interested in occultism, and that's all fine and dandy. So am I, right? But this thing that he's doing, it's pure evil. It's not intrigue at all, right? It's just pure evil, right? And so, right, this is my point when I told Sony and everyone involved, right, that like if this becomes money, right, then I have no choice but to pay, right, my legion of clairvoyants. I have to build my coven to watch him and everyone around him, just like he has people watch me. That it's this rarefied like siege that's like all the way up here, right? Celestial siege, right? And we're both just boom, right there, right? And he resents me for it. Right? He's never known how to play. He doesn't understand this game at all, right? He has a predilection, right? And so what I'll say is that on the Church of Tarantino podcast, he said, oh yeah, my wife's favorite line is that I went to what did he do at Con this year? Oh, he showed off his wife. And they all started chuckling. He said, yeah, you pay attention to me, but you watch her. You remember what I said? You remember what I said, right? What you got to say about Leo DiCaprio? You listen to him in your mind? While she's got her legs spread? Is that, right? Or does she just have her eyes closed the whole time? Right? And revel in the rhapsody of her spiritual communion with Quentin, right? And so that's my point. It's a game, right? It's a game. It's just a sick game to them, right? So my point is that, and I'm about to start reading out my novel. My point is that this channel didn't have to exist, right? That if he would have just left me the fuck alone, we would have just both gone on with our lives, right? So everything that he tells people about the movie Critic, it's all bullshit. It's all cunning, right? He scrapped that film, right? Which is to say, he scrapped the Cliff Booth scenes because I broke the spell that he had over the world. That's what it actually is, right? That he, right, operated on a frequency regarding actors, right? That his psychic clairvoyance, right? That his remote viewing, his telepathy, right, is so powerful as a result of his name and his success, right, that he doesn't have to say anything practical to any actor, right? And so he rode that, right, all the way through, right, all the way up to that moment, right? And I stuck my letter all the way up to his nose. So he stuck his nose up at me and turned his back on me, and I did the same thing. Spell's broken, right? Forever. There's an actor in the world now whose power over his mind he had to steal. It wasn't given willingly. Undoubtedly, this is why he's had so much success. 100%. Though he doesn't know what he's doing. Right? That if we, right, and this is the other side of it. Right? Like, oh, celestial feud, like, oh, mortal enemies. Like, yeah, God, fucking A. God sucks, you know? But, right? Come together. And I don't care. Yeah, sure, you can hang me with forever. Like, yeah, I get it. I get it. It's fine, it's your movie. I get it. But, right, we wouldn't be here. Right, we wouldn't be here if they would have just talked to me like a normal person. Right? That if this isn't about the movies anymore, that's my point. Right? That he talks about movies in front of the camera. Right? That's what he does. Right? But if this was just about a movie, if this was just about the way that he made movies, right? And he would have produced a non-disclosure agreement, paid me up to $5 million for my scene, and said, hit the fucking road, buddy. And it's his movie. It's perfectly reasonable. Right? Well, if he didn't want to use the scene, just pay me $1 million. But he wants to use it, of course. It's the coolest fucking scene anyone ever seen. Right? This thing that's been occurring between us now, right, is the most legendary psychic communion in the history of modern man, 100%. That me and everyone involved, perhaps it's all just him. I think it's him and 3 others. I don't know that completely. That we are so bound together now beyond space and time to the edges of eternity. And he'll always deny it. Even if we come together, we'll take everything down. And he'll say, oh, hey, I found this actor, right? Because I don't have social media. There's nothing lingering out there beyond what I've created to discuss this condition. So, the novel is called Building a Coven. Right? It's about my experiences with Quentin, right? It's approaching Thanksgiving of last year now. The novel spans from from May of 2021, pardon me, through February of 2025. And all the most palpable evil things have all occurred after that.